Good morning, good morning, good morning. I would like to welcome you to Sports Choice Plus. I'm going to be doing a very special conversation breakdown on the live stream. Before I get right into that, I'm going to make sure that you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel. You can get all the updates, all the breakdowns, and we're going to get right into this. So, I want to start off by saying happy belated Christmas to everybody. I know I did a live stream yesterday wishing everybody Merry Christmas, but I want to make sure that you guys are wished formally Merry Christmas. We got a lot to talk about today. We got a lot to talk about, and we're going to get right into it. I'm pulling up some stats, and we are going to be talking about the Baltimore Ravens. Quote, the Raven never more. With a season essentially on the books, the Baltimore Ravens are now 7-8. They have a very, 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 very slim chance of making the playoffs. So the Baltimore Ravens need a lot of help. What up, what up, what up, what up? The Baltimore Ravens need a lot of help. They need a lot of people to either lose, and they need to win out, and they need Pittsburgh to do their part to lose as well. So when you're looking at the division, the only hope that they have essentially is making that division, and you got to think the Steelers are not probably going to lose two in a row. So at this point in time, anything can still happen. But here we are. When you're thinking about the reports that we've been reading, I've been getting reports all weekend from last week on, and it's been about Lamar Jackson. Been about Lamar Jackson, and I'm looking at these posts, and it's not just the hate mail. It's not just stuff that you read on blogs. It's actual credible information that's coming from inside of the Baltimore Ravens locker room. So when you're looking at just overall, Coach John Harbaugh has struggled the last couple of years with Lamar Jackson. You know that Lamar felt disrespected by the organization when they didn't want to pay him. There's been a lot of question marks about Lamar Jackson's work ethic as of late. There's been questions about his out of the football headquarters behavior. And again, Lamar Jackson is 28 years old. He's an avid video game player. But they're very dead on with their complaints about Lamar. When you're looking at the Baltimore Ravens the last couple of years, they've been on the cusp of getting to the Super Bowl, but they ran into Patrick Mahomes. They've also ran into Josh Allen. They've also ran into themselves, a la Mark Andrews dropping a pass when he had the chance to essentially extend the game. So when you're looking at this, the relationship with the Ravens is a rocky one. Because on one hand, you love the fan base. You love how energetic they are, how passionate they are. But on the other side, the ownership tried to play in your face. They tried to not pay you. They tried to blackball you from getting paid from other teams. So essentially, when you're Lamar Jackson, you're looking at this, and there's been complaints about Lamar being immature. One of the biggest things, and I'll read it to you guys, that I saw a news report, and it says, Ravens head coach John Harbaugh is reportedly growing tired of Lamar Jackson's diminishing work ethic. The immaturity includes late-night gaming, falling asleep during team meetings, and lack of accountability during film sessions. The breakdown of the NFL player's body is natural, but Jackson could help prevent some of these things himself. He doesn't need to be up all night playing late-night video game binges and falling asleep in team meetings. He needs to train more. He needs to be more in his playbook and more into mandatory mini camps. It says he disappears one day after the next. It says Lamar Jackson, just 28 years old, prefers practice in the afternoon, which is why the Ravens don't have sessions in the morning. That's a major problem, says several Ravens on the inside of the organization, and is that there are team rules that are specifically for just Lamar Jackson. Once the Ravens become official, once the Ravens become official critical of Lamar Jackson, he goes into defense mode and withdraws. It's a shame because Lamar Jackson isn't a mean-spirited person. He's just an overgrown kid. This is the NFL, and a lot of people's livelihoods are at stake. A lot of people have children. A lot of people have families, and they're depending on Lamar Jackson to do his part. It's clear that Coach Harbaugh has become tired of Lamar, but he still continues to try to build game by game with the success. There's been questions about the play calls. There's been questions about execution. And there's also been play calls that have been changed at the line of scrimmage. It says, when asked about the report on Wednesday, Coach John Harbaugh downplayed it and said his relationship is stronger than ever with Lamar Jackson. But behind closed doors, many players and also staff know the real story. So that excerpt is one that I got from online from the Baltimore Sun. That was a la via the Baltimore Sun, and they're talking about how Coach Harbaugh is getting fed up with Lamar Jackson. There's been several whispers behind closed doors. There's been several rumblings that, again, I read it to you word for word verbatim. This was not my own editorial. This was from the Baltimore Sun, and this came out on Wednesday of this week about Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens getting tired of Lamar, and they've spoken about it. One of the hitting points was, this is the year that Patrick Mahomes is not there. This is the year that they were expected to either take a step forward and win the division and go to the Super Bowl, or either place to the point where they won the Super Bowl. So a lot of people have put expectations, and they talked about it in the offseason about no matter what happens, being competitive late. Well, if you don't even make the playoffs, how does that competitive? From the standpoint that the Pittsburgh Steelers fumbled most of the year away, and they stood in the pack with the Bengals and the Browns, and they weren't really competitive for most of the season, but then they still were able to win. When you think about the Baltimore Ravens, sometimes you can blame it on the play calling. Sometimes you can blame it on them not using Derrick Henry. But sometimes you have to just blame Lamar Jackson. Yes, there's sometimes where the offensive line gave up a misplay here or a misplay there. But the audibles at the line of scrimmage, when Harbaugh says, well, this wasn't the original play call, okay, so that leads me to believe, did Lamar have permission to change this at the line of scrimmage? Is Lamar having issues with seeing or reading the defense? Now, as you get older, it takes a little bit longer for you to recover from your injuries. We saw Lamar as a rookie, first, second, and third year. When he would get hit, pop right back up. Those lingering injuries are now turning into long-term injuries. When you're talking about the hamstrings, I've never heard of an NFL player not wanting to practice in the morning and then moving the whole practice to the afternoon instead. That's new kind of stuff. And mind you, players get treated differently. And Jimmy Johnson was a very advocate person about Troy Aikman having his own rules and Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith having his own rules, and everybody else was everybody else. But the Baltimore Ravens are in different territory. They're not used to not making the playoffs or used to being the last one in. They're used to hosting playoff games. When you think of the standings and you think of so many different teams that have had a good year this year, the Baltimore Ravens are on the outside looking in. They need a lot of help, and they need a lot of help from Pittsburgh losing. And I'm looking at the conference, and I'm looking at everybody. I'm looking at the Texans. I'm looking at the Indianapolis Colts, the Bills. When I'm looking at the Chargers, I'm looking at Jacksonville. A lot of these coaches that have just come on, just think about this, two teams. The New England Patriots and also the Jacksonville Jaguars, first-year head coaches. These guys are firmly planted with 12 and 11 wins in a season. Now, they didn't have the toughest schedule like Baltimore did. They didn't have to face the toughest of the division and toughest of the foes. But what they did do was win the games they were supposed to. When you think about both these teams, they gave it to Baltimore. They gave them everything that they can handle. When you think about Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh was floundering. And you got to think, Pittsburgh is, 9-5? 9-6? They had a perfect opportunity to jump Pittsburgh. You got two head-to-head games against Pittsburgh. You can even a series. You can come out and play like champions, and you could do your best to do X, Y, Z, but they did not. You had so many teams that were helping Baltimore out. Remember, Baltimore lost those 5-6 games early in the season. They didn't lose them late. They lost them early in the season. So when they started winning games, even when they won that game against the Browns without Lamar, you expected something special. You expected the magic that we normally used to see the Baltimore Ravens with. But the defense went out. The offense went out. They stopped using Derrick Henry, and I still, to the life of me, can't understand why a team with a Hall of Fame running back like Derrick Henry does not run the ball. It's tough to understand when you have a lead. When you have a 10-point plus lead and you choose to not run the football to drain the clock out? I don't know. But Lamar Jackson's injuries, Lamar Jackson's immaturity, and if these reports are true, his choices to do things different and not practice on a normal schedule, to not do certain things on a normal schedule, to not have the team be in the same vicinity and to be running like a real NFL team. That's hurting the Ravens. Because remember, the Ravens didn't never, when Ray Lewis and them were there, when Ed Reed was there, they didn't have this. The head coach set the tone and they followed through. They weren't just practicing in the afternoon, they were practicing in the mornings. And if this is true, him falling asleep in meetings and doing things like this, it's tough. It's tough to defend it. It's very tough to defend that. Because then you got to look at the rest of the leaders on the Baltimore Ravens. Your Roquan Smiths, your Mark Andrews. Just to name a few. Has Harbaugh lost this locker room? That remains to be seen. But the Baltimore Ravens are probably going to have to do a rebuild. The Baltimore Ravens are going to have to probably blow this current team up because the way that they're moving, the way that they're grooving, the defense is underperforming. The offense is underperforming. And from the standpoint of what we're used to, the two-time MVP that Lamar Jackson is, the special player that he is, we're used to seeing Lamar be better than this. We're used to seeing Lamar being mentioned in the finals for MVP for the year. We're used to his prophetic games of when he takes over with his legs, or when he takes over with his arm, or he uses dual threat and mixes and matches and does it. But the Buffalo Bills are here. The Buffalo Bills are in a similar situation with Coach McDermott. No Patrick Mahomes. No problem. No Baltimore Ravens. No problem. So this is a tough time for the Baltimore Ravens. There's questions about if Harbaugh is going to go for the Michigan job. There's conversations all over the place, but can they really get it together? It's going to be a miracle if Baltimore breaks the playoffs. It's going to be a miracle. It's going to be a miracle. And I respect everybody's opinion, but I don't see it happening. I picked the Baltimore Ravens about 6 weeks ago to win the division. I picked them to do that. But from the standpoint, when I'm looking at everything in a nutshell, Lamar Jackson, as good as he is, can't save them from what this is. He can't. He can't. So when I'm looking at the overall standings, I'm looking at the schedule, and I'm looking at what they have, the Baltimore Ravens are in trouble. They are. And now I have to ask myself, do I trust this Ravens team the last two games, even if it is a glimmer of hope? Even if Pittsburgh loses a game, do I trust them to do what they need to do? The answer is no. Doesn't look good on any side, on any front, on any type level. But I will say this, though. The Baltimore Ravens are going to be stuck with a hefty contract from Lamar Jackson. There's so many things to pick up that's been put down. Again, leaks of information. We're not used to hearing stuff like this from Baltimore. And the fact that these people are going to the Baltimore Sun and posting this stuff lets me know there's some type of credibility there. This isn't a random fly-by-night website that's in the middle of Nebraska. This isn't a random person on YouTube just saying random stuff. This is the Baltimore Sun, the actual paper that covers the team. So that lets me know there's some type of conversation going on between the locker room and this reporter that's giving them all this juicy gossip. And then when you watch the practice tape and you hear Harbaugh saying, stop changing the play, Lamar, run the play that's called, that's a dead giveaway for stuff. Because we don't know you have issues until you say it publicly. We don't. Until you bicker, until you have a disagreement, until you start yelling and fighting and it doesn't go well. That was head scratches when the Ravens lost, when they played on their last primetime game. Derrick Henry was not running the football. You saw Derrick Henry running through tackles and arm tackles and shoulder tackles and all these things, and he was team couldn't stop him. Legitimately, the Patriots could not stop him. But they went to throwing the football late. And I'm thinking to myself, even if you run it and even if he doesn't get the first down, you're draining time off the clock and saving yourself from being caught. Even if they go down and score. Even if they do. So it's a tough test. But will the Baltimore Ravens get rid of Lamar Jackson? Will they blow up the team? I think the more likelihood is them blowing up the team. I think Harbaugh could be out of here, just like Mike Tomlin had talked about could be out. It's a new era of football. Instant. Everybody wants something instant. Everybody wants something done right away. So therefore, the teams are wanting success right away. The teams are wanting people to acquiesce and play differently and do different things. So now as Baltimore, are you winning a championship? Is your championship window closing? The answer is yes. Every single day. So that being said, what do you guys feel? Do you feel like the Ravens are going to hit the reset button on Baltimore with Lamar Jackson? Do you feel like this is going to be a turning back of the hands of time and them trying to trade him for something else? Or do you feel like they'll just cut him? What do you feel? What do you feel about the news report from the Baltimore Sun that I read? At the end of the day, it's a lot of speculation. It's a lot of talk about what's going to happen. And it could very well not happen. But the stories are not writing themselves. The stories are not leaking information by themselves. It's somebody on the inside of the organization telling that information. So, overall, I think that when it's all said and done, Baltimore has had a great run. It may be time to deconstruct and do some things different. From the offensive play calls to the personnel to a number of things. So all you Baltimore Ravens fans, all you NFL fans, what do you feel like? Do you feel like Baltimore's championship window is closing? Do you feel like they should hit the rebuild button? They should hit the reverse button and do something different? Definitely check out Sports Trace Plus. And I'll